robust crowd and delightful conversation. Yay! We are all here ready to go. Hello! Yes! 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 This is fantastic, yes. Well, good evening, everyone. This is a wonderful crowd. Welcome to the second annual Women in Tech Soiree. We are very happy to hear you, and we're very happy to see you. We're very happy to have your attention. Let's just clap so we all know that we are ready to begin. Thank you so much. So my name is Bridget Daniel, and I am the founder of Vocalette, and I'm also the Executive Vice President of Vocal Electronic Systems. And on behalf of our partners and Candidate Philly and Grow Development, we are very, very proud to have you all join us this evening. So many probably want to know, what is Vocalette, what is Candidate Philly, what is Grow Development, and why are we doing this event? So one thing I think I've seen in the last couple of days of Philly Tech Week, diversity has become a trending topic, right? There's an issue about the disparities in tech or in business. Why don't we have more women? Why don't we have more women of color? And I think that's an issue that we're all trying to figure out. But what I have realized is that this is a village issue. It's going to take a village to tackle and address what's going on. And what this soiree is just our piece of the puzzle, our contribution to bringing groups of women together to have a safe space, to connect, to collaborate, and to really find other partners and other friends in this group. And I think it was crystallized when a young lady who came to me through one of our sponsors, her name is Octavia, and Octavia said, I have these great ideas, but I have no one to talk to about it. And I was like, Octavia, that should not be the case. You should always have people that you can go to, women if you would prefer, that you can talk to that are trusted and that you want to just bounce off ideas. And I think that really captured why we're doing this. So together with Grow Development, who we started this about a year ago, and now look where we are, Corinne and Leanne. This is a wonderful occasion, and I'm going to like to bring up my other partners so we can talk more about it. But Vocalette, just so you know, is also the same type of initiative. Vocalette was started by me because I'm a woman of color in tech. And I wanted to have a space for people to connect and network and just meet other women and meet other partners and meet other collaborators and meet other sponsors and meet other just people that are doing the same thing every day, that you may need a hand in the wind to say, I need your help. I'm here, I'm out here. And we are out here. So Vocalette is that safe space. We also have $10 t-shirts. Vocalette is definitely one of those brands you want to make sure that you're involved with. And we're also very excited to have this event. So I'd like to bring up Grow Development Philly Director, Leanne Kenny, who will just talk a little bit about Grow Development, and then we'll also have Corinne Wollock, who will talk about Candidate Philly, and then we have a slew of amazing speakers this year that we're proud to have presenting, and then we'll have that party started pretty soon. So Leanne, please come up and share our story as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leanne Kinney. Bridget makes my title sound a lot bigger than it is. I'm actually one of the chapter leaders of Girl Development Philly. We have our founder of Girl Development Philly, Yasmin, who's going to be moderating the panel tonight, which we're really excited about. If you're not familiar with our organization, I know this mic just if you're not familiar with our organization, we provide web and software development classes to women at affordable costs and comfortable environment. We're now in 53 cities across the country. Philadelphia was the third one. We have our executive director, Corinne, here. We also have a bunch of people from our leadership team. If everybody, like Megan, I can see you, and I know Becca's here, and Jen. If you have any questions, please come talk to any one of us. Aside from classes, we also offer a handful of free events. We have one on Friday. We're just meeting up to do a morning coffee group where people can just come and meet other people in the industry, or if you're curious about getting into tech, it's a really great opportunity to meet other members and find out about what we do. We're on Meetup, or you can go to our website, it's just girldevelopment.com, and see what classes that we offer. And is Ashley coming next, or?
Corinne.
Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Corinne from Candidate Philly, one of our partners for tonight.
Thanks. Hi everyone, my name is Corinne, not to be mixed up with Corinne from GVI. I feel like everyone thinks that sometimes. But, to tell you guys a little bit about Candidate Philly, if you're not already familiar, because we are a startup. We have a woman entrepreneur, and what we do is we help somebody in the tech space find a job, and then we help them find a dean. So, yeah, now it's not exclusive to either service, so it's not one or the other. It can be both if you need both, but the whole idea is to help you with whatever part of your life you need, whether it be personal and or professional. And our methods and techniques for both sides are mirrored. So it's matchmaking. It's basically recruiting meets matchmaking on both sides. In a larger picture, in economic development, we're bringing people to Philadelphia and then helping them stay. A job will get you here, and love will keep you here. So, and we have an amazing woman CEO. Her name is Amber Warner, and she's actually on the panel, so you guys will have a chance to hear her speak. She's really an inspiration to me. I actually met her at one of the women networking events that I've been organizing forever. So I'm a huge fan of just women collaborating and sharing resources. It's amazing the things that we can pull off when we talk to each other about what we need and help each other. Really, really help each other get where we need to go. So I appreciate you guys all coming out, our sponsors, Bridge, for making all this happen. She's just like, everything she was doing, it's amazing. And obviously Leanne and Ashley, who are a very intricate part. And everybody who supports other women in technology. And just women in general. You don't even have to work in it. You can do whatever you want. So yeah, I think that's it. We'll bring up our sponsors.
So just want to talk a little bit about our sponsors this year. We can't do this, of course, without sponsors. I know everybody knows that sponsors are, what keeps us all in business. Sometimes we have nonprofits and initiatives, but our sponsors this year have been amazing. So just want to acknowledge them all. First, Philly Tech Sisters, Ashley Turner. Ashley has been like our guardian angel behind the scenes, putting it all together. And she, like Mogulette and all of us, have a very deep commitment to bringing women together. So thank you, Ashley. We were able to have, round of applause for Ashley Turner. Raising to have great gold sponsors that jumped right on because they also have an important commitment to diversity of women in tech. So we had our gold sponsors this year were PNC Bank, Aris, and JP Morgan. Yay! We're definitely very excited for them. I'll just go through the rest of them, and then I'd like to have our gold sponsors just come up and share a couple of remarks real quick. But we also had Leadonomics, which has been great for our partnership. They're actually in the back there. We had PromptWorks. We had Blue Coat Gin, which is in the back there, so please take advantage of their gin that they have on the tables. We also have Prestige Concepts with our beautiful Tiffany Satter, who's also going to be a panelist, who's actually doing our taping. And Mr. Adrian, who's actually here from Comcast, who came in at its pinch of a moment and got us some lighting, because that's what Comcast does. So thank you, Adrian, so much. And we'd just like to bring up our gold sponsors real quick. So if Coffee Lindsay could come up. Coffee is the PNC chairman of Community Banking Developer Relations, and she was one of our first sponsors to come on board. So we'd just like to have her share some remarks on behalf of PNC Bank. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Coffee Lindsay from PNC. Okay. I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you on behalf of PNC. Thank you to Girl Development, thank you to Mogulette, thank you to Candidate. We're very excited to be here at such a dynamic event with so many dynamic women. So I wanted to say have a great evening, enjoy, and whenever Bridget calls, you have to answer. So definitely. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. And if Carol Ann Sweeney can come up. Carol Ann Sweeney is Senior VP over at Aris, and they were also very prompt and able sponsor. I'm sure I messed that title up, but you can throw it correct. But either way, they came in at a pinch and they said, of course, we love women in tech and we want to make sure you guys are okay. So Carol Ann, please share your remarks from Aris. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So yes, I think my direct managers of VP will get a little upset if he found out that I just got promoted to senior VP.
Promotion on me.
Perfect. It'll be great to go back to the office tomorrow. So thank you so much for having us tonight. We at Aris are so excited to be able to sponsor an event like this. Having diversity and inclusion is so important to us. For those of you who don't know Aris and have not heard of our name before, we are a global organization and we power TV and internet to millions of people across the world. And we would love for you to come and talk to us. We have Gwen, Kim, and Bev with us today. We'd love to learn more about you and to network and learn about what you do, as well as share what we do in technology and communications and how we can network together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Caroline. And our last gold sponsor this evening is Terrence Bowman, and Terrence is one of our tech recruiters from JP Morgan. He's a manager there, and he actually jumped on board just last week because he realized that diversity in tech and women was very important to his organization. So thank you, Terrence, for coming on board, and here are your remarks.
So what she really said was last but not least. So we're so happy and excited to be here because JP Morgan, as you know, is a global firm. We're not just a Chase Bank, right? We are the reason why you can check your balances online. We're the reason why you can go out and do Chase Pay, Apple Pay, and all these wonderful things. We move trillions of dollars every single day through technology. And so we value technology, and certainly we value women in technology. We have a strong commitment to diversity. We are right down the road in Wilmington, Delaware. We just built a new technology site that houses 2,000 technologists. It is movable furniture, writable walls, pool tables, Xboxes, fire pits, like whatever you want, we have it, right? We have 40,000 technologists within JP Morgan Chase. We employ more technologists than a lot of other companies that you might think that are out there. We love developers, and we are a part of this movement in technology. So shameless plug, of course, but we love to talk to you at our booth down here at the end of the row there. We're so committed to Girl Develop It. We know that there's a group that recently established in Delaware. We have global technology sites in every single city that Girl Develop It is involved in. As Mogulette develops, we want to be in every single city they are, and we're going to partner with Candidate as well. So we're happy to be a part. We are actively recruiting, and you can come see me down at the end. So thank you for having us, and we're happy to be a part.
Check one.
Thank you. Nice. Much better. Gotta love good technologists. So we would now like to bring up our keynote speaker. So just to tell you a little bit about Amanda Steinberg. Amanda is the founder and CEO of Daily Worth and Worth FM. Daily Worth is the leading digital financial media company for women with 1 million subscribers. 1 million subscribers. Worth FM is a digital investment advisory, and as women in the U.S. inherit the majority of wealth, Amanda is changing how women think and manage their personal investments. In 2015, Forbes magazine named Amanda one of the new money masters and financial luminaries, shaping the future of investing. She has also appeared on Anderson Cooper 360, Gold, Good Morning America, The Today Show, CNN, and MSNBC. Prior to Daily Worth, Amanda was a computer programmer and CEO of Soapbox, which is a web engineering company serving many of the U.S. largest cultural and social institutions. She's also a graduate of Columbia University, where she studied urban planning and computer science, and she came with her daughter, Maya, this evening. So we're very happy to have Amanda, and she'll share her story. She's definitely been in the battlegrounds of a woman in tech and a woman in business, and I think she'd have a very nice testimony to give us as we start this evening's program. So Amanda, thank you so much. And Maya.
Still in the battlegrounds. Not out of the battleground. You want to have a seat? Okay. Wow, Philly. I mean, I grew up off South Street, 2nd and South, as a kid, and I think like between 3rd Street and 15th Street there wasn't anything. It was just like empty buildings. I got mugged so many times I can't remember. I would walk home at night with like the key between my fingers, and that was normal. So, you know, I live in Mount Airy now, and I come down to Center City, I'm like, what is happening? It's still unbelievable to me. So I'm so thankful to be here with you guys this evening. I'm so grateful to be building my business in Philly now. Out in Chestnut Hill, yes. And you know, it's interesting, I've been at this for 7 years, and I can see many, many years ahead, and it takes a really long time to build a business that establishes itself. And you have to go through so much during that process in order to get there. But what's interesting now is that I've been at it for 7 years, and we've seen a lot of success. So I'm getting all this media, and so people are starting to respond to me differently. And I realize there's this idealization of the entrepreneur archetype, that everyone has this idea, I mean, I've been chasing it for years, I don't know if you are, that once you reach a certain point in your entrepreneurial endeavors, that you suddenly float off into the sunset of bliss and success. And it's kind of held out there as this place to get to. I haven't gotten there yet. And yet, the media is really amazing at painting this picture. And so what I want to do with you guys tonight is actually break it down into reality to remind us of all what it's really like, because my whole life has been about watching my single mom, I'm now a single mom, yes, history does repeat itself, is about helping women thrive no matter what. So when I come to events like this and give speeches, I don't want to feed you bullshit. I really don't. I'd rather stay home. I want to tell you what it's really like and hope that you take something out of here so that you can thrive in the ways that I've figured out through everything I've gone through. So the first thing I want to tell you about what it's been like, I wasn't going to say this because that sounds like bragging, but can I tell you guys a story what happened to me last week? So I went out to meet Oprah. This is the upside, all right? This is the upside. So I'm part of this program, which you'll learn more about soon. And there was a photo shoot to announce the program. And they put me right next to Oprah. And there's 50 people in the photo. And I turn, and I'm standing right next to her and I go, "Hi Oprah, I'm Amanda Steinberg." And she turns to me, she goes, "I know, I'm the one invited you here." Coming up here, and I was like, I'm not going to tell that story. It sounds ridiculous. I had to tell a story. So, all right, now the downside, because there's it's hell sometimes. So the things that have really struck out to me lately that you hear but you don't necessarily know are true is that as things get bigger in your business, you have to face bigger problems. It's just really important to know that panic attack of entrepreneurship and doing things on your own, unfortunately, it's not as constant as in the beginning, but it's bigger when it happens. But it's happened to me enough over the last 7 years that the really important lesson I take with myself every day, that when I look back on the really, really scary moments, the nights when I'm up all night staring out the window wondering what the hell I'm going to do, is actually when the miracles happen. It's actually when your best ideas are born. So now when there's crises, I get excited because I know I'm going to have my creative moments. The next thing I want to talk to you about that's been a really valuable lesson for me about the reality of entrepreneurship that I want to really make sure you take with you is that the finances are incredibly complicated. I stand up here, I represent giving financial advice to women. There has been a moment where I was $200,000 leveraged to myself. There's as businesses get bigger, everything gets more complicated. You're waiting for capital to come in, you're waiting for loans. I'm up here talking about saving and investing and all the things which I do myself and totally believe in. But I just want to make sure that, I can talk really loud. All right, now I'm not going to. I'll just, changing my voice. Okay. So, it's all right. I'm actually really loud. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. All right, good. I can fill a room, no problem. So the thing about money that I want to talk to you guys all about tonight is just make sure that you are focused on it as an entrepreneur and as a business person, because especially as women, we weren't raised necessarily to think that we were going to be responsible for money, or it seems really scary and intimidating and so freaking overwhelming. This goes for guys, this is for everybody, right? Seriously. Thanks guys, by the way, with all this estrogen. This is mine. But we'll talk about her in a second. She thinks walking into big rooms and having everyone listen to you is normal. That's her experience. So I just want to, there's these moments as far as your finances are concerned where things can get really scary. Just make sure that you are putting them out front and taking care of those, because you want so much for your business to be successful, but you can be driving yourself into a really deep hole in the process. And I've been through those ups and downs so much. And they're really the hardest to deal with because you have to put this face out that you're always being successful. So being able to manage all of that is just incredibly important. Coming over here tonight, actually, this is going to remind me, as we were walking out the door, Maya said to me, because she comes with, this is my deal. Oh, this is actually my third lesson. That's a perfect segue. Thank you. You just reminded me of my perfect segue. Which is the third lesson that I was thinking about on my way over here that I really wanted to bring to you is something my friend Leslie Bennett says, which is the rules weren't designed by women, and yet women are the ones who follow them. And I was I keep reinventing, but then I realized I was like, no wait, we're becoming more in charge. We're inheriting the wealth. We're earning just as much money now, and yet we're still trying to follow all the rules. So I'm always trying to figure out, like, I love coming out and speaking to folks, but I also have kids at home, and I have joint custody with my ex, so I don't get to be with them every night. So it's really hard for me. So I decided to redesign the rules. I said, I will absolutely come speak as long as I can bring my kid. And everybody says yes. So it's just a reminder to everyone that doesn't mean like everyone should bring their kids in. That'd be total chaos probably. But I'm sure there's many instances where we're following rules, where when we have more influence, we can change things. You know, it's really like, imagine if women had been in charge for this long and what the world would look like. It would probably look pretty different. And I think we need to find a much better middle ground. So that reminds me is that Maya comes with me to so many of these now, which is awesome. And everyone, so as we were walking out the door tonight, she said, Mommy, make sure to leave time for questions. That was her advice to me as we were walking out the door. So I think that on that note, I'll just close by telling you guys, I skipped the little part that I wanted to talk to you about. So my business, Daily Worth, was founded
Check one, check two.
Cool. Is it better with the microphone?
Just hold it straight up like this.
I can yell louder too. Okay. Okay, better. I don't have to yell anymore. Cool. So I started my business, Daily Worth, 7 years ago from my attic in Mount Airy. And it was because I was making multi-six figures as a programmer, but had bought this ridiculous house in Mount Airy that needed like $30,000 worth of windows replaced, and it sent me into a spiral, and I was like, this sucks. So I started publishing about finance, and now it reaches 1 million women. But 2 years ago, I realized that a lot of the way in which financial services works also didn't serve the way women were really sophisticated in lots of areas of their lives, but not totally understanding investing and a lot of the other stuff because we weren't necessarily raised to think about it that way. So I started another business on top of it because that's what one does. So what I want to do as I retransition into questions is I'm here tonight, and what I do is I want to go around. I really want to help you with the mechanics of how the hell you get stuff done. Because I remember, and I still feel it some days, of being an entrepreneur. Of being an entrepreneur and figuring out how to handle things when things don't go quite the way you expect them to. So that's really my specialty, is making magic out of crises, and I look forward to taking all of your questions in terms of how I help that happen for you. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I would love to take questions from anyone. Yes.
What kind of event in a business that's running operational, cash flow positive, do you think triggers an equity raise versus going out and raising more debt?
Great question. So what triggers an equity raise versus raising more debt? I'll just be loud again. So what triggers an equity raise versus raising more debt?
You gotta hold it just like this, please. Please.
Am I doing that? I suck at following rules, seriously. So so what triggers an equity round versus raising more debt? So the thing with equity round is when everything about the business is working and you know that money is the only fuel that it needs to really accelerate. Debt is a scarier thing because, well, we're not going to get into that. That's a whole other story. But we'll just stick to equity because I know it a lot better. It's really, equity is great because you know the multiplier of what you're going to do with that equity is going to be 10, 20, 100 times greater than what you have. As opposed to still trying to prove out your business, which is really better done using resources around you in any way possible so that you don't have to be completely diluted in the process. By the way, when I first started talking about money 7 years ago, that never would have happened in a women's audience. And there were like crickets when I would go speak at places. There'd be like 3 women that showed up. So I already see this incredible transformation just in the last 7 years. So thank you for that question. Who's next? Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So what do you see as the benefit to kind of starting your own as an entrepreneur versus partnering with a bigger company?
You know, I've been joking lately that if you want to become very successful and wealthy, go with the bigger company. It's really about it's a risk-reward thing, just like with any investment, if you're looking at a business that way. There's a lot more you have to put into being an entrepreneur, but also the outcomes for you, both, I would imagine, financially, maybe, depending on how you look at it, and maybe from a personal vision standpoint are greater because you don't have those constraints, but the risk is also that much more enormous. So it's how much risk do you want to take on in your lifestyle and what does that look like versus partnering with a larger company where you're just going to have a lot of framework and resources, which is awesome, as opposed to going out on your own. I think it's a great thing to do. So I really see that as a lifestyle choice. What do you want to subject yourself to and how much risk are you willing to put up with for what's possible on the other side?
What do you think are the most important attributes of being an entrepreneur?
What are the most important attributes of being an entrepreneur? A level of maniacal resilience, I think. People have called me a serial optimist. I come into all my meetings with my board and my investors talking about how great everything is, and I actually see it that way. And they say, well, that's what makes you you, and that's why you're here. But it's not always reality, if you know what I mean. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in that way. Trying to think of any other attributes. Fearlessness. I guess they all kind of go together in many regards. And it's okay not to be those things. For everything that's positive, there's also the flip side. Just making sure we don't continue to perpetuate this idealism of entrepreneurship that can send people into dark places that aren't necessary. Yeah, let me just see if there's any more and then we'll come back to you.
And we'll take 2 more questions.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry guys, I haven't even come over here. Hi.
How do you raise capital?
Yes.
In the past, and being an entrepreneur, there's a balance, I think, between bootstrapping and taking money too soon. And I want to
Yes.
know what your take on that is. If you have any insight.
So the question is, there's a where I'm not gonna roll. Like that. I don't know. So what's okay, as soon as I start yelling, it gets really so what's the balance between bootstrap and raising capital? I don't think that there's an exact answer for that. So the question is, when do you balance bootstrapping versus raising capital? And I don't think there's an actual answer to that question. I think it really comes down to you want to take as little capital as possible and bootstrap as long as you can until you realize that you can really propel yourself forward. It also has to do with how much the market is responding to whether or not they're going to give you capital. So you kind of have to just continue bootstrapping until you can raise capital. There's no science to this. I hear science, I hear rules all the time, and then I realize I have to reinvent them because they don't always apply. So at the end of the day, I have many friends who've become multimillionaires as a result of never raising a dime of capital and doing unbelievable things. Actually, I think of my friend Peter Schenkman at Help a Reporter. I think of Marie Forleo. I think of some people you might know. I didn't even know that really existed when I started 7 years ago. Seeing that path, I was so much in the venture space. But at the same time, me being a single mom, I've had to take a salary for I went 2 years without a salary in Daily Worth and took it from somewhere else. But capital has allowed me I have kids to raise, so I have to have it. So it's made things a little bit easier for me, which was necessary to build the business. So, sorry, I have actually no perfect answer for you. That was the train of thinking that I hope was useful. Yeah. Thank you, right? I mean, it really changes the whole dynamic of what you do when you take capital because you are a failure unless you have to produce really outsized returns as opposed to people who create really lucrative lifestyle businesses. It's really, I guess the main question there is, for me, I realized that all of financial media was really read by men, and especially when we got into financial advertising, how male-oriented was. I was like, well, look, you're missing half the population here, guys. So that to me warranted capital because it was so big. But there's many, many awesome businesses that are much smaller than that, where you can become extremely successful without ever having to take capital. So check out Marie Forleo for those of you guys who don't know her. She teaches an online course that teaches you how to make really awesome businesses without raising capital if you don't need to. So we'll take one more.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
I'm sure you do a lot of business with men.
Uh-huh.
And so I want to know, like, where do you find that your efforts are stymied? And what can we do to better recognize, that and be better for women?
Thank you so much for asking that question. So the question is from this lovely gentleman over here is how can men be more helpful? First I want to start with the dark side to this answer, which is that sometimes it's really freaking hard. I've raised over $9 million now, and we're raising another 7 right now. It's now a financial services company as much as a media brand. In doing so, I end up at dinners with a lot of men who are in very, very powerful positions. And it was about 3-4 years ago, I remember, when I was raising our Series A for the first time. And I remember he was pressuring me into tequila in order to basically render me unconscious. That's the extreme example. I did not mean to bring that up to you. I just think I bring this up once in a while when that flows in naturally, because there is this really painful side to being a woman in business. There's been versions of that on a much lower level that have happened repeatedly. Not blaming you, don't worry. The thing that lately has been hardest about being a woman, and I went to Baldwin out on the main line. My parents sent me there because I had discipline problems growing up in the state. Like, we need to send you those to all-girls school. But there was so much female empowerment at Baldwin, and then I was oblivious to sexism. It really, even as a programmer, I had so much power in the room for 10 years. I didn't even see it until I became an entrepreneur and started raising capital. But what's interesting now is how often when I'm in raising capital meetings where they say, who's your technical co-founder? Or they say, who's writing your algorithms? I get this almost every day now. I'm like, me. I was like, which language you would like me to write it in? I was like, do you want me to explain to you the session handling the tokens and securities and how, I was like, what exactly about these algorithms do I not understand? This is not meant on you. Thank you so much. You just sent me on a rant because I have a lot to say. I'm just so shocked that sexism is profound as it is. I was oblivious to it. I'm 38. Probably until I was 33, didn't realize it was there, and now I see it loud and clear. So thank you for asking. You don't really have to do anything. Just the fact that you asked allowed me to go on my little therapeutic rant, and I really appreciate it. So thanks a lot. So I think that's all they want from me at this point. I think it was 2 questions. Yes.
That quote that you said earlier,
Which one was that?
about women making the rules.
Oh yeah. So my friend Leslie Bennett, who wrote the book The Feminine Mistake, she said, the rules were not created by women, and yet we are the ones who follow them. But what I realize now as an entrepreneur is that, we're the ones who are making just as much money as men now, are really trending in that direction, everything shows. And there's also, as the generations change over, we're gonna be the recipients of a lot of inheritances. So we have to remember that we have to realize that we actually are the ones who are in charge, which means that we can finally rewrite these rules to make our lives easier and more equal to everyone else. But that has to come from us doing it.
Thank you.
Of course. So thank you so much, everyone, for having me here.
Let me give you just a gift for being our fantastic speaker and keynote. Thank you again for coming and sharing your story. And we're going to actually have the panel come on in about 5 minutes. So everyone wants to refresh their drink, get a little air, get a little food. We're going to change up the scenery, and then we're going to get started with our amazing panel. But thank you. Another round of applause for Amanda Steinberg. Thank you so much.
Hey everybody. Hello, hello. We are back. We are back. Hello. Can I get everyone's attention, please? Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Ashley Turner. I am one of the organizing partners here representing Philly Tech Sisters, one of the local meetups that also encourage women of color to get involved in the tech industry. I want to thank you all once again for coming here today. We know that there are plenty of events during Philly Tech Week that you can go to, but you chose to come here, and we are so grateful. Thank you. I want to introduce to you, some of you may know her already, Yasmin Mustafa. She is one of Philadelphia's most beloved tech entrepreneurs. You may recognize her from Girl Development. She initially brought them to Philadelphia as one of their co-leaders, and now she has her own company called Roar for Good, where she helps protect women using wearable technology with jewelry. So I want to introduce to you again Yasmin Mustafa as our panel moderator. Thank you.
So let's make sure you can hear me. Hello? Hello? Let's see. Hello? Hold on one second. Wait, here we go. Here we go. Can you hear me? Okay, I hear a little bit of an echo. Awesome. Hi, Philly. Hello. Hi, everybody. So, I really enjoyed Amanda's keynote, and I want to invite you all to follow a rule that she was talking about, the whole concept of reinventing rules. I see some, what I consider very smart ladies sitting down. If you would like to sit down, I know it's going to be a long night, I invite you to do so. We have a 40-minute panel ahead of us. This is a moment where I am very glad that I am still a budding tomboy. So if you'd like to sit down, please feel free. And with that, we will get started. So I'm really excited for tonight. I know some of these ladies, some I don't, so I'm looking forward to getting to know. And this panel tonight, what we're going to be talking about is a lot of things. We're going to talk about embracing risk. We're going to talk about becoming a leader. We're going to talk about taking the leap. And before we get started, why don't we do a quick poll? I'd love to see, with a raise of hands, how many people here tonight are entrepreneurs right now? They have their own business. All right. Okay. It's hard to see with the lights. It's really hard to see with these lights. And what about, how many people here want to be an entrepreneur? Want to have their own business one day? Okay, wow, more hands. Okay, great. And how many people are currently, working for a big company like Microsoft or Comcast Corporation? Okay, awesome. And how many are looking for a career change? I actually met a few earlier today. Okay, I think that might be the most hands that I saw. Okay, you are in the right place. Great. We have women here who went from working in the corporate world to starting their own companies or working for a startup, or both, actually. So let's get started, and let's do a quick round of intros. I'm going to pass it off to whoever has the microphone. And who is that? Desiree? There you go. Okay. Let's do a quick 30-second intro, and let's end it with something fun, something that most people would not know about you.
Okay, hi Philly, what's up? My name is Desiree Peterkin Bell. I've worked for 4 U.S. mayors. I've worked for the President of the United States. Actually, I worked for 2 presidents as well. I'm excited to have the opportunity to have the DNCC as a client. I helped to write the bid and negotiate it on behalf of the city of Philadelphia. So for me, it's been a journey of 3.5 years, and we got it because we good like that. So I'm excited about that. And I know it's supposed to be 30 seconds. Just want to give a shout out to some of the DNCC women who make it happen that are in the room. Kelly, Klein right there. Deshauna, Olivia. So all these women are here and they are making it happen in the DNCC. The whole team is about 60% women. 60%. So we are making it happen. So I always say I'm driven by purpose and not position, and we'll talk a little bit about that later.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Darla Wolf, and I have been in business corporate technology for about 25 years, which was very exciting in the Philadelphia area, and I had the opportunity to travel all over the world. And after that time, I decided that I was going to follow my passion, and I started my own business. and it's called Sweat Equity, and it's the second business that I run. And the first business that I ran, it's my interesting thing, is that I also make movies. So the first business I developed, I married my passion for film with my passion for technology and my passion for business, and I had a movie distribution platform. So I'm very excited to be here today and talk about my offbeat path through technology and business, and I look forward to talking with you all.
Hi everyone, my name is Simone Burkauer, and it's so great to see everybody here. I am a software engineer and I love programming, so cheers if you do too. I majored in math at Yale, and then I came out to Microsoft and I worked there for 5 years. I worked on Bing. I worked on the back-end algorithms where when you type in a search, we decide what results to show, so really interesting work. But as we'll talk about, on my list of goals was to start my own startup, so I quit. And I moved to the East Coast and I started a startup called Simbi.nyc, which uses data to match roommates together who are compatible. And that is still up and running, but I have to tell you, it did not go like Amanda Steinberg's company. It did not every company does, so we can talk about that too, but my next role is I'm now a software engineer at a startup called Curelate, which is just down the street. Oh, and something you may not know about me is the blonde is a lie.
So is mine. My name is Amber Warner, and I'm the founder and CEO of Candidate Philly, and Corrine Wallach, who is my first hire, kind of explained a little bit about what we do, but for those who missed it, we find someone a job in the tech space, and then we find them a date. So it's not exclusive to either service, but the big initiative is how to bring people to Philadelphia to be a place where they want to work and stay. And so we're working with a lot of the really awesome tech companies here in Philadelphia, kind of helping them with their culture and making it a place where people want to work. So a fun fact is that I started my company at 22 years old, and now I'm 24, and so it's going pretty well. And we were on the cover of Philly Weekly last year, which was a very exciting time, and yeah, I'm looking forward to answering some of your questions.
Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany Standard. I am the founder and CEO of Prestige Concepts, a branding and marketing firm that I've owned since 2009. And we work with companies from Microsoft to Comcast to Philadelphia Police Department. I also have a startup called We Are Meant, focusing on wearable technology to grow and inspire new innovators, females especially, in wearable technology. I am a brand ambassador for Microsoft. I've been with them now for 2 years, doing national campaigns and speaking to girls especially on STEM and product design and business, so that's been going great. I have a radio show on 100.3 FM that I've been doing for the last 3 years, so that's amazing. And I just became a partner in 2 venture capitalist funds that will be launching next year. And a fun fact is, if I did not become a entrepreneur, I would have became a dermatologist because I'm really big on skincare. And I'm also a self-taught front-end developer.
Is there anything you do not do? Another fun fact is that Tiffany told me that this is her 7th panel in the last week. 7th panel! She should be the one moderating here tonight. So I want to kick things off with a question, and this is a result of speaking to a few women actually here tonight and at the Rat Girls yesterday. Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. And that is that you don't have to be a coder to be in tech. Yes? Yes. So I hear that a lot from a lot of women. They might be they may be a database analyst, or they have a website and they just like, oh, I'm not in tech. Well, am I really a woman in tech? How many people here do not code? Okay, all right, proof. True for all of you. All right, so let's get into some questions. Desiree, purpose, not position. Please tell us more about what that means.
Well, I always say I drink deeply from wells I did not dig. So I come from a long line of women who have fought, struggled. My great-grandmother was a woman who passed. Folks know what that means, right? You are black, but you passed to be white. Many years ago to buy a house in Brooklyn because nobody would sell it to her. And then finally, when she bought her own house, and she cleaned lots of other people's homes. She cleaned white rich people's homes to buy her house. So it was her time to buy a house. She finally buys a house, and there were threats, and there were men who would often try to scare her, and she was beat a number of times, but she never moved. And what she taught me, and what my grandmother taught me, my mother taught me, was your purpose in life is to really find your passion. It doesn't matter what your position is. You could be cleaning somebody's house, you could be the king, the queen, you could be a janitor, but if you have your purpose in life, no one can take that away from you. And so for me, I always talk all over the country, and I talk internationally as well, about women finding their purpose. Sticking to their purpose and stepping into it. Don't be afraid. And oftentimes, women are afraid to step into their purpose because people have told us that we're too confident, too bold, and if you're a woman of color, sometimes you're too aggressive. And I just go back to what my great-grandmother taught me, which was if she wasn't aggressive, if she wasn't bold, first of all, that house wouldn't be in my family today. That's one. And we changed the neighborhood. And so I speak broadly about purpose, not position, because I am driven solely by my purpose, regardless of whatever job I have, whatever client I have, or whatever I'm doing.
That was incredibly inspiring, Desiree. Thank you. I was asked to shush the crowd. I don't want to do that, so let's stare at who's talking and guilt them into, okay, there, it worked. Thank you. Thank you. So speaking of inspiring, Darla, you went from working at several Fortune 50 companies to becoming a serial entrepreneur. I've met a few people here tonight that work at several big companies here in the area that want to do the same. Could you tell us a little bit about your path and any advice that you would give them?
Absolutely. When I grew up, it seems so long ago, you really only had the one path, right? You go to college, you get your degree in programming, you become a programmer, you stay at a company for 30 years, you retire from the company, and life is good. In the 90s, when I graduated college, that was beginning to be not the case. There was no more cradle to the grave. And I started working at very large corporations, and I did what I thought I was supposed to do. I climbed the ladder, I towed the line, I went and worked at plant sites, I did all sorts of things. But I found that I wasn't really happy, I wasn't really fulfilled. There was no more creativity left. I was doing the same thing for the same people over and over. And even if I changed companies, it was still the same thing for the same people over and over. And so I had a personal incident. I got divorced. And I got the job that I had moved in the same year I got divorced. And I sat down and I remember thinking, oh boy, two major crises in my life at the same time. What am I going to do? And I called a friend of mine. We got a bottle of wine, of course. I said, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? These are two big things. I have to find a job. I need a job. And he said to me, well, what is it that you really want to do? What is your passion? And I said, I'd really love to start my own business. And he said, well, do it. If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? And I said, okay. And I started my first business, and it was one of the best experiences that I've ever had in my life. It was very difficult. It turned out not to be as profitable as I would have liked. But I learned a lot, right? I won't call it failure, I'll call it a life lesson and a learning. So the business that I have now is called Sweat Equity, and basically what it's designed to do is match established professionals and students to non-traditional opportunities in startups, nonprofits, and emerging businesses. And so what I wanted to do was give back and allow people who may be, I won't say stagnant, but let's say getting a little bored with the opportunities that they have in corporate, to marry those skills in a startup and kind of develop themselves without having to quit their primary job. So really, I think you can find your passion and you can find who you are in lots of different ways, and especially we as women who have to balance a lot of balls, need to have these kinds of opportunities.
That's great. It's amazing. Amanda earlier was talking about how it was always during the low points that she found inspiration, and now she looks forward to chaos. That's interesting.
And it's coming.
Thank you, Darla. And Simone, so you have kind of a similar story in that you worked at Microsoft, and then you left, and then you said, you know what, I'm going to start a company. And then now you're working for a startup. I would love to hear about that. And also, do you have a degree in programming?
So my degree is in math. I took computer science in college, but I started doing it the second semester of junior year. So I fell in love with it immediately, but it was just too late to switch. But I love math too, so it's okay. And so part of my journey is from role to role becoming more and more technical. When I came out of college, I started as a product planner, which was doing a lot of customer research. Then I became a product manager, which is deciding what to build, and then finally a software engineer, which is being the one building it. So that was always part of my journey, was becoming more and more technical. And as you guys know, if you've done a role switch, you have naysayers at every step, yes. And they are saying, I remember telling one of my coworkers I was going to start this company. And it was a dev lead, and he asked me, well, who's gonna build it? And I said, I am. And he laughed. And that motivates me. It's a bad example, but it motivates me every day to say, yes, I built this, and yes, it's working, and yes, I have these skills. You asked also about going from a big company to a startup, and I had a similar experience to Darla, where you're working at this big company and you learn a lot, and you reach a point where that's a little more saturated and you get a little bored. For me, I think it's really important to write goals. So I had written a 5-year plan. These are the goals I want to achieve in the next 5 years. 3 years later, I looked at my list, I found it in a notebook, and I realized I had achieved every goal on my list in 3 years, except for the hardest one, which was quit your job, move back east, and start a startup. And that was very motivating for me. And my boyfriend at the time, I'm actually marrying in a month, he is also a software developer, and we started kicking around ideas. And it took us 8 months before we came up with an idea that we thought was worthy. And that's the point at which we quit, took the plunge, did the hard decision, and started our startup. And it is the hardest thing I've ever done to this day, the hardest thing. And all of you who have ventured into the entrepreneurship world, it's the hardest thing you'll ever do, I think. But you learn more than you could ever imagine, and you learn from doing instead of from reading a book. So I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Wow. And the reason, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And the reason I asked about your educational background is, with Girl Development, we meet a lot of women that have not taken, they don't have any type of programming degree, and they come in and they want to switch, and it can be intimidating. You wonder to yourself, you can be doubtful that you can do it. And I believe every single chapter leader actually that we have at Girl Development Philadelphia right now had a different degree than what they're doing now, which is programming. I know, Corinne, what was your degree? What was it? Sociology. And now she's executive director of Girl Development. And I don't know if Elise is here. She was an English major, and now she's a programmer at Ticket Lead. So I just wanted to give kind of a shout out to that.
I think that's right. I came with a math degree, and I understood those machine learning algorithms better than any of my computer science peers because of my diverse background. And I'm sure there are examples where you understand things so much better than your peers for your sociology background or whatever that is. You have to work that diversity of experience into your role.
And it could be a benefit.
Definitely a benefit.
Yeah. So Amber, 24 years old. Wow. I did not know that. That's amazing.
Even though I look like I'm 12.
No, I don't think so. So you went from matching software developers to companies, and now you're doing matchmaking. So tell us about that, and especially doing it so young.
Yeah, so I, just like anyone else, you know, in the career that they end up in, I did not plan on this at all. You know, I initially wanted to go to school for law, to do criminal law. And so at 16, so I graduated high school early. At 16 and a half, I moved out to California. And I lived out there on my own, didn't know anyone or anything. And, you know, I went to school out there, and I came back here I came back here for the summer, and I ended up finishing at Villanova. And you know, I kind of fell into recruiting, and you know, I was working and going to school at the same time, and it was, you know, I found that I loved recruiting, and I loved helping people fulfill, you know, pieces of their life that, you know, were not fulfilled. And this is on, you know, on the job side. And I would meet with my developers, and they would say, "You found me this awesome job. Now I'm in a great place in my life. Now if only you could find me a wife or a husband." And so, you know, oddly enough, that kept coming up, and my candidates would confide in me because I really was genuinely trying to get to know them in the best situation for them. I wasn't just trying to put a butt in a seat, and you know, so I think they could sense that, and so I knew that, you know, they were married or had kids, and you know, their kids, you know, needed, you know, extra, you know, strong benefits. So I would try to cater the position that I found for them for that, and so. You know, the dating side kept coming up, and you know, my best friend is a software developer, and he said to me, he was like, you know, I work for a company, I love what I do, I make all this great money, but he was like, what's making, you know, all this money if you have no one to share it with? And so he said, you know, you know, the last thing I want to do is go to a bar after work or go online dating. He was like, if someone, you know, could tell me where to be, when to be there, like a recruiting firm, he was like, I would pay them any amount of money. And I was like, okay. I was like, and then the candidates would say, yeah, I was like, but then the candidates would also say, oh man, thank you for the feedback on the interview. Now if only you could tell me how my match date went last night. And I was like, well, I don't know anything about your match date, but I wish I could provide that feedback to you too. And so, you know, I was working for a recruiting firm for a couple of years, and I came up with this idea. And I actually, for those of you that are on Facebook and do time hop, I had a time hop the other day from 4 years ago, and it said, I have a brilliant idea, I just need to figure out how to execute it. And 2 years later, I started the company, and you know, a year later, or 8 months later, I ended up getting an investment from a pretty significant, you know, venture capitalist here in Philadelphia. You know, and I didn't care about my age. In my mind, I was 40 years old, and I was walking in there. But I felt like I could do whatever it was that, you know, that challenged me. And for me, it was, you know, starting the company was very much like, don't think, just do. Because I know that I overanalyze things all day long. So if I thought about it, and I would have talked myself out of it. And so I quit my job, and I was meeting with an investor a week later. And then a really funny thing that I wanted to kind of point out is that how I came up with the name, and I think a name of a company is also pretty important. So I was driving to meet with an investor, and he was like, what's the name of your company? And I was like, oh, I'll send you all the details later. And I'm like, shoot, I have no name for my company. So I was listening to Rihanna, and the song Possible Candidate came on. So I was like, Candidate, and that's how Candidate came to be, and that was kind of my aha moment. And I love Rihanna.
That's amazing on two levels. One is my company named Roar, came from Katy Perry's song Roar, which is all about female empowerment. So I was trying to come up with it, and that's how I came up with that. And what I really like about your story is that you weren't a coder, you had an idea for a tech company, and you were like, I want to do it, and I'll find someone that complement my skill sets. And my first company was a software company. I was not a coder. I tried to learn. I did not do that well. And it actually inspired me to bring Girl Develop It here from New York, and now I'm running a hardware company. I know nothing about hardware, but it's all about finding the team. You don't have to have that experience. So absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. And Tiffany.
Yes.
Tiffany. So you do so many things. I mean, I feel like I should have given you like 4 minutes, 5 minutes to go through everything that you do. You host a radio show, you serve on many boards, you just talked about this new thing I didn't know about. You run away all the time. How do you balance 7 panels in 1 week? How do you do that?
So it's been a crazy week. One thing I've learned over the last probably 3 years, and it took me a lot of years to learn this, that when you're passionate about multiple things, but you have a common denominator to kind of bring them all together, and that was technology for me. You know, me doing Prestige Concept and website design and branding, getting to wearable technology. I've been in product design since I was younger, and bringing that together was technology and wearables. And radio, I kind of fell into doing radio. I was producing a show for a friend of mine's that unfortunately passed away suddenly, and then I became the host and producer for the show full time. So that was something I kind of fell into, and I've always loved media and entertainment, and did a lot of AM shows and did producing for the 10 show when it was here on Channel 10 as well, in the beginning of my company. So I spoke to a friend of mine that was like, I have all these ideas and I just want to do everything, but I feel crazy for doing everything because people are like, why are you doing so much? But then I talk to men that do it, and they can have 5 different companies, be partners in this and boards in that. It's an amazing thing. But then you speak to a woman, she just does this, or, well, I don't want to do too much because people are not going to think I'm going to be good at it. But I met a couple of women over the last 5 years. They said, you're in this weird category that you can follow all your passions and do it well. And if you can't do it well, depending on your team, why not, right? So the men in my life and then the new women in my life that became mentors and now great friends of mine said, if you have passions that have that common denominator that allows you to do it, then why not? So I've been doing a lot for the last few years, and probably even more over the last 2 years, and getting into venture capitalists, which I've always wanted to do, and launching a lot of new projects that I've been working on behind the scenes, but I've been waiting for that perfect time to launch, and now they're actually launching, so it's kind of just increased everything.
It's amazing. I remember reading an article that says, if you say you're too busy to do something, it's not important enough for you.
Exactly, I agree.
Yeah,
and making that time.
Exactly, and how do you energize yourself with all that going on? How do you kind of, get back and get motivated and not be tired? I would be tired.
I'm always
tired.
So being tired is a part of it, but I get excited. Like, I had a meeting today with my team for the project that we're launching later this month, and I literally woke up early. So when you're excited when you wake up early for something. And I am not a morning person, and I became probably a morning person over the last year. So I'm normally working late at night, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. type of work, and then getting up a little bit later on. But I'm excited about everything that I'm doing, like every single thing, from the things we're doing with the radio show, to branding and marketing, to the stuff I do with Microsoft every month. I'm excited, so it wakes me up every morning because, one, I didn't see myself doing this, right? So we talked a lot about falling into entrepreneurship. I did payroll for Sunoco before I started my company, and I was in, I did bartending, I did like so many other jobs.
How long ago was that?
That was I started 2005, and I was the youngest person in the department. I actually graduated early as well, 16 and a half, and I moved right out of high school into my own place, and then I got into a recruiting firm actually, doing payroll, and they just kept placing me in payroll because I was always good with numbers. And then I got a full-time job at Sunoco right before I turned 19. And then I got laid off from that job. Well, I volunteered to be laid off from that job to start my company full-time. And when I got laid off with a pension. Youngest person probably getting laid off with a pension. And I got unemployment, I got all those different things, and that helped me be self-funded for the first few years of my company.
Wow. I remember going to a panel, actually, it was a couple weeks ago, and this question came up about this whole work-life balance, which does not exist. But a panelist, she said this thing that I haven't been able to forget, and she said, what I do is every quarter or so, I'll make a list of things that energize me and things that deplete me. And I get rid of the things that deplete me, and I focus on the things that energize me. And I started doing the same, and I started doing it with people too, which is really important. And it served me so well. It served me very, very well. So we have about 10 minutes left, is what I just found out. So I think we gave a very good overview of everybody's background. So I'm going to open it up to questions. I know we'll be tired of standing. So I see someone. Question, yes.
great question.
Okay, well, for me, in the project that I'm working on, I always do this unsolicited focus group, I call it, when I come up with an idea and seeing if it's a valid idea. I started going to different events such as this, and I would talk to people about the idea, but privately, meaning I would just bring up different questions. And if 4 out of the 5 people agree with me in every single event I went to for maybe 3 or 4 months, then I knew it was an idea to start. And I would map out that idea in that way. And then that's when I would bring on the team. I mean, for me, I do, a good amount of the technical side as well, but then finding those people and even the meetups for finding the right person, because if I'm seeing the same people or maybe that same person at this different event and we're having the same conversation, then that's a person that I need to have that conversation with afterwards to be either a partner or a customer or whatever they may be in regards to that idea as well. And as far as finding funding, you can't find funding without the idea. Sometimes you can, depending on how good your idea is. And people were like, oh, the aha moment that, oh, nobody's thought of this yet, I need to give you money. So it really depends on your idea, how early you can find funding, and maybe having a great investor in your back pocket that when you're coming out with an idea, he's ready to fund it. So finding more men like that.
I would say that, like, if you're going for an investment, that investors, from what I found out, invest in people, not necessarily their idea. So they want to invest in someone that they can see driving that business forward, and they trust that the passion is there, the drive, the dedication, working until midnight or later at the office by yourself, that you're going to put every inch of your being into it. And I'll also say is, if you decide not to, it's always going to be hard, you have to be very frugal, I think, when starting a business. Because before I got my investment, I had what I had left in the bank, and I worked at a Starbucks. And you need to kind of, go back down to, or remember where you came from. And I always say that I learned how to drink coffee slow. Because you stay all day at Starbucks, and they're going to kick you out if you don't. But the other thing I would say is also surrounding yourself with folks that want to see you succeed. When I started my business, I had friends that were lawyers, accountants, business folks that really helped me to, bring my, my idea and my vision forward. And it really paid off. I had someone help me create my LLC that, and I believe it comes back around because, now that lawyer I work with, as my lawyer. So I believe also in like reciprocity, so really surround yourself, and I think that you could do it for the free way as much as you can, and then, if you need to get investment, they'll invest in you.
Just to add a little bit more to that, both of my businesses I started bootstrapped. And what I did before I went out and looked for investors is I found the most cantankerous people that I knew, and I sat them down and I said, and the most frugal people that I knew, and I said, let me pitch this to you and listen to me until you would invest in this idea. So before you go out into a VC situation or a third-party funding situation, ask your friends and family, would you invest in this idea? Is there enough meat here that you would care? And then you can go from there.
So I'll be a little different, which is, so I've been in government private sector for about 20 years, so I'm not a young chicken, even though in my head I think I am. And so I actually, was trained as an attorney, Yale Law School, worked at Skadden Arps, represented U.S. Tobacco, and represented Christie's and Sotheby's in the price fixing case as a very young, attorney, and then had a quarter-life crisis at a very young age, went to grad school, went to college early, all that good stuff, was deemed as like a talented child, and went away at the age of 14 to prep school, all that special stuff. But what I realized was very early that I wanted to do something about public service and passion. And so what I realized for me, particularly when you're building something, so I'm in a quote-unquote startup phase. My business is me. I am my brand. So some people have joked that I'm the Olivia Pope of the region. I love the president. I would never do that because Michelle would beat my behind. I know them very well. But so I'm in business of me. And so when people come, and I think it's different. So we have different businesses. My business is they call me. They don't want anybody else who works for me. or who I may subcontract with, they're paying for me, my presence, my ideas, my connections, my strategy, and everything else. So I think part of it is understanding what your idea is and what you're worth and what you're selling, because that is power in that. And you know, for me, having worked for government and public sector for so long, I look through my Rolodex, I'm like, you know, I'm texting with Jay-Z, brought Made in America here, we're gonna do it again. And there are people who are like, ooh, you have Jay-Z's cell phone number? I'm like, you gonna pay me for that? Wow, that's deep.
What about Beyonce?
I got hers too. But I'm saying that, but these are things that when you're building a business, people value that stuff. Like that stuff is significant. And so sometimes you lose, you have to redefine the value for yourself and redefine the value for your idea or for your product. And there's always, what I have learned is that there is so much money out there. So I'm gonna say this, there's a lot of money out there, y'all. You just have to figure out how to package your idea. That's what you have to do. It's about packaging your idea. What are you presenting to someone that they can't live without? Or that they want really, really bad? Or, quite honestly, the other part of it, or that's just gonna save their ass. Right? Like, what is that product? So these are all lessons, and I just wanted to bring a different perspective to the panel because for me, my business is me. And everything I have, all my connections, networks, my history, all that stuff, I've had to value that and put a number sign attached to that, and people are paying for it.
That was fantastic. How many more questions can we do? Because I know we're running out of time. One more? Okay. So let's do one more question, and if I want to ask if we can keep it quiet for this one last question, that would be great.
She told me back to shut up.
All right. Do I see a hand anywhere? All right. Please.
So, being in a male-dominated industry, have you ever experienced any benefits of being a woman or team and information that you share?
So being in a male-dominated industry, and have you experienced any benefits to being a woman in technology?
Well, just to start off, someone told me something that I think is very true, which is that being a woman in a male-dominated industry or a minority in a majority atmosphere, whatever that segmentation is, it will get you noticed. And being noticed means being remembered, and that can be very good, and it can be very bad. And whether that's good or bad is completely in your hands. I believe that. So I had the benefit when I was at Microsoft, which is a huge company, I was always remembered. People knew who I was because I was the only woman in my entire floor. It was easy. And it was up to me to be like, that's Simone the rock star, instead of that's Simone and she's terrible. That is up to you, but the power is you will be remembered. So you just have to rock.
I love that. I love that. All right, one more perspective.
Yeah, so I've, as I said, worked in a lot of corporations, and I agree with you completely. People do remember you, and I think you can use that to your advantage. The other thing that I would say is you use your creativity and use your skills as a woman. You bring different skills to the table, and I think you leverage those, and you help the room think in a different way.
Yeah, Tiffany.
One thing I've noticed is working with a lot of developers and coders of men, they're really boring, right? Having a conversation with them is terrible. So I bring a different perspective of the creative side where I get excited and I'm normally the brightest person in the room outfit-wise or hair-wise. So it's just that conversation of when you're speaking to them, they're talking this, and they're looking at you like, oh, we can have other conversations. So just bringing that energy that women have, because like real techie guys and men in this industry, it's hard to have a real conversation with them outside of technology, so, or wardrobe or anything of that nature. So just bringing that creativity and that fun, and normally when I'm in there and I'm speaking and I'm in front of the room, they're surprised that I can talk fashion and algorithms at the same time, and I'm like, yeah, I can look cute talking about this. So it's just really important to bring that creativity and just dress nice, and not always having to be that woman in a gray suit or a black suit, but coming in there and really being smart and beautiful at the same time is really awesome.
So using your differences to your benefit. That's amazing. So
Can I just say one thing quick?
Okay, real quick.
Really quick.
So I've personally never viewed myself like as a woman or a male. Like I went in there and did my thing. I didn't care how tall I was, how young I was, you know, anything. And I went in there and, you know, you play the part and they respect you for it. And then at the end of the day, your work proves itself worthy. You know, and I meet with like CEOs of billion-dollar companies, men that are like 50, 60 years old, and they view me, in my eyes, just as much as, you know, the male that walked in before me. So I definitely use it to my advantage, and I think anyone here could.
So let's give everybody a round of applause. Thank you so much. Will all of you be sticking around after if anyone wants to find you for more questions? Yes? Okay. I actually unfortunately have to split to the expo. Oh no! But thank you so much for having me. And Bridget, everybody.
Yes.